Hello and welcome to today's podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Jolly Jarvis, and today we are talking all about basically the dated sales technique that is damaging your sales and what to do instead. Because there's absolutely no point in me telling you don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other, but not giving you advice on what you can do. As always, before we get started, I know this is a bit of a mysterious one. It sounds all kind of mystic. It's designed obviously to attract attention. It's a headline to encourage people to listen to the podcast to find out more. Appreciate, that there is a sense of mystery around it. What it comes down to, the crux of it is how you sell versus your competition, what you say and what not to say to get your ideal customer, prioritizing your solution over the other solutions out there. Markets are busier than ever, particularly the online world, where I spend a lot of my time and where a lot of my customers come from. And so it's really important to stand out. It's really important to help your customer understand what sets you apart, why you are different from your competition. But as ever, first of all, a quick update for you. I feel like it's never ending changes and alterations and updates and all sorts. But basically, from a CRM point of view, we moved from close.com, which to be fair, we were finding rather expensive and with a restricted amount of functionality. We moved to Zoho, which is another CRM system, which promises a lot of features and integration with Zoho Social, which is their social stuff. In reality, not so much interaction and not so much help. Definitely not helpful from pulling people through on into the CRM system. It doesn't integrate as we would have hoped. From a cost point of view, actually, it all starts adding up, and that's what you'll find with these CRM systems. It's a bit like going to IKEA, and it's like, well, how did a toilet brush and a couple of bits of shelving come to so much money? And it's because it's a little bit of £7 here, £5 there, £20 there, and then before you know it, you are spending a considerable amount every month on your CRM system. So we have moved back to close.com. Now we have actually set up a different account because the one that I tried to reopen was playing up a little bit. So we have a brand new account there. It was super easy to migrate. To be honest, as soon as I had issues with changing users on it, I was like, you know what? I'm just better off with a clean slate, which is I think what you need to do sometimes. In that process, I was then migrating the information over. They use a third party to migrate the customer details over, but it was super useful, super good. They do like a little sample set, and then they go forwards and once you've approved it and you're happy with it, they actually migrate the whole lot. So really good there. Thoroughly pleased with that. Was expecting it to be really painful. We also, because we have moved away from Zoho, there's zero point in using their social stuff. It didn't have the functionality that we wanted, but one of my clients has been using something called Content Cal, and that kind of got my ears pricked, basically because this person researches everything in detail. If they need to know anything about anything, they research it into a lot of depth. So I know that when this person has looked into this, they have done a thorough job, and so why not follow then what that person has done? They're enjoying it. I went on, had a look, and it is exactly what we were looking for, in that it provides the content information. You can see it as a calendar, so not just as the not just as the day view or as the stream view, so that, well, funnel, whatever, which channel view. It also gives you an overall month, so you can see what's happening on that. You can create drafts and you can move it over. You can do so much. It's amazing. So super happy with that. I'm going to put a link. I do have a close link from historically when I was using close, but I'll also look at whether or not we've got a link to Content Cal, or whether there's some sort of link that I've got for that, which if so, happy days. Thoroughly enjoying that. They're also really good. Their customer service is based in the UK, and they're very responsive, and they're able to sort of tweak packages to help you. So that's really good. We are currently still making tweaks to the funnel. We want to do changes to the sales page, further improvements to the sales page. Yes, so it continues. Anybody who thinks that you just create a funnel overnight, I would love to see how you do that. So we're after that improvement of conversions. The cost of conversions is still high. We're reviewing areas where we're actually going to lead gen to get those costs lower. It is prohibitively expensive on the usual platforms at this moment in time. Well, one in particular is very expensive at this moment in time, and so we are looking at moving some of our budget to other channels. We're still going to have a presence. We'll still look to probably retarget on Facebook, but at the moment the numbers, you're putting an awful lot of pressure on the back end in order to get those numbers to work, whereas we want it to be a little bit more front end, not positive, but a little bit more front end manageable for scaling. So it makes sense at this stage rather to continue. We are really good with ads, and so the guys that are working on it, they've trained with some of the best in the world. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to think that we've got that much wiggle room there. So we are looking at other areas, including YouTube. As you can imagine, I am not delighted by this prospect, but we do have the skills in-house to be able to support using YouTube, and so why not look at it? We're going to be looking at different elements, including YouTube, and then probably running retargeting on Facebook, so that we're splitting that budget. There's also talk of doing TikTok. The joys, I have told them, there's no way, absolutely zero chance they're going to get me wearing some sort of, super hero outfit while standing on my kitchen table, which seems to be what is on a lot of my feed on that, but I'm sure there's more beyond that. And so watch this space on all those things. As ever, lots going on. We've just done our quarterly plan. We've got all those sorted out. Really excited to get going with that. Got the team behind it. Got some posters up in the office with our targets on for this year, and what rewards we're getting, and then also a nice clean whiteboard with all the targets for the year and the numbers so far. So really, really excited. Selling Without Sleeves has got off to a really great start. We have already surpassed, so we've smashed it, the target that we had for January, which was quite a realistic target. The thing is that lots of people have renewed, so I've had so many clients who've wanted to extend their time with me and work with me further, that's where that income has come from. So looking to next month, that resource is used at least for the next sort of 2 to 3 months before people would look to renew again. And so it's looking to the funnel and the new leads as sources of income for this month. So, as the sort of sooner you're aware of that, the quicker that you can get on and start developing those leads as necessary. Obviously, you should always be doing that, but your focus does change, and in this case, the investment needs to be made there in those coming through, which are currently colder. I think I've had well over 50% of my income this month has come from clients doing repeat purchases, so extending their those programs with me, or buying retainer sessions. So that is really exciting. Anyway, without further ado, let's talk around selling off your competition's shortfalls. So basically, the sort of old school way of doing it was to be talking around. And when I say old school, it's bad practice, okay? It's what people would get into the habit of doing. It's what people, in some cases, were encouraged to do by the more traditional, old-fashioned, you could call it, sales trainers, which was to talk around, product X being your competition. It doesn't do what we do in that we don't do, we do this and we do that and we do this. So you're selling off the shortfalls, you're selling off where the limitations to that product are. Other phrases are what you'll find is product X doesn't last as long, it tends to fall to pieces. It's quite a negative. I hope even just by listening to those descriptions, you've got the idea that it's quite a negative approach to have. You're saying what they don't have. You're not saying we do have this. You're saying they don't. And it's used to discredit the competition. Along with all sorts of other tactics, showing where the competition is actually, providing false information or false claims. And it's all things that, I remember being briefed on this when I started in medical sales, and we had a key competitor, and we would do all our product tests versus that competitor. And the thing was, there was absolutely zero need, and this was the point was, yes, we did the tests against this product, and to start with, we were encouraged to talk around this product, but then it was quickly found that we were talking about that product more than we were talking about our own. So we were using that repetition of name, which I'll come on to in a minute. And so actually, which name are you reinforcing? Which company are you reinforcing? Which product are you reinforcing? I would mention as a rule of thumb, I would mention a competitor. If you want to talk specifics about a competitor, I would name them once maximum during a call. Ideally not at all. I would say other alternatives out there, the alternatives that are out there. What you're looking at with our product is, and that's it. You say about what you're looking in our product. You say about what the plus point is to your own product, and then you say, that isn't the case with other products out there. Other competitor products do not provide this same sort of scenario. So you're not saying what the absence is, okay, where the drawback is in your competitor. You're talking about where the value is, where the USP is in your own products, and then you're allowing those people then to understand and draw their own conclusions. Yes, you want to spell things out as much as possible, but repeatedly negatively talking about your competitor is not good, because it risks coming on to the risks. It risks you talking about the competitors more than yourself. I remember going into a training session with somebody. So I was going out with them as the trainer, and they were going into a customer call, and we came out, and I was like, how many times did you mention our company's name? And they were like, once at the beginning. And I was like, and how many times did you mention the competitor? And it was all about the competitor's absorption. It was all about the competitor's wear time. And I was like, but actually we could have said that the illustrations were there. They know their products. They can see which product we're comparing ourselves against without even needing to use its name. Okay, and I'm not telling you here to not draw comparisons to, but what I'm saying is to draw the attention to your product and make reference to other products as other products on the market, other options out there, other providers. I talk around competitors. I have one competitor that I'm really not very keen on. They are the epitome of what I dislike about sales, and the reputation that sales has. And they're there living it and still making it exist. It really perplexes me. Do I mention their name? Absolutely not, because I don't want to give them that airtime. But there are people out there who are in your market who you don't need to say who they are. It's just it's stipulating there are these people. Okay, it's as much as that. I would rather talk about how I don't sell in a way which is sleazy. I encourage people to sell in their own style, and to create their own sales toolkit which is unique to them and their customers. That is not what other people in my market do, but I'm good with that. But do I need to mention them? Absolutely not by name. So also, what you want to be careful of is basing your pitch on other things that you can't control. So, in my, sorry, did I mention what happened? Oh, yes, the boy. Yes, that's fine. So, another thing is going out and, you're basing all that information on that person's absorption. For example, back in the day, and when I did medical sales, I did dressings, very unsexy. But dressings, you will be surprised how big dressings can be. I was shocked. It was a whole new world for me when I entered that area of the market. But actually, I really got quite into it. I did draw a line at things that, huge wounds. I remember going to see one patient, and actually I had bad dreams after that experience. I was not from a medical background. It was very shocking to me. But anyway, back to the main point. If you're basing your pitch on things like the other competitors' absorbency, so they're not as absorbent as we are, then the thing is then that all they have to do then is hear from the competition that they have changed the level of absorbency. We've improved our level of absorbency. And as far as your argument is concerned, it's been lost, okay? Because you never talked facts and figures and information. So if you'd have equipped your customer with, our product can absorb X amount within X amount of time, other products on the market cannot do that, okay? Then what would have to happen for that competitor to then undermine that USP, that that point that you were making, that message that you were using, that information that you were providing to encourage that person to purchase your product over an alternative, they'd need to provide that information. They'd need to prove that they were, the absorbency was at the same level and they were getting those figures. A lot of them didn't know absorbency numbers, so they wouldn't have been able to do that. They'd have just been like, we'd have improved. And if you were going, their absorbency isn't as good, and then they go, actually, we've improved now, it's a new version, blown out the water. So base your pitch on things you can control. Okay, and I'll come on to that in a minute. It also seems super negative, yeah? Okay, particularly when I was in medical sales, you were selling into the national health system. People are not skipping to work in that system, particularly not nowadays. And, it was that you were walking in and you were just going doom and gloom. They don't do this, they don't do that, they don't do the other. Talking down competition is like, talking down and talking behind the people's backs. And that person isn't there. And some people find it really, really uncomfortable. And, I'm one of those people. So instead, what do? Well, you sell on your own merits. I'm always a big fan of being that ray of sunshine, bringing positivity in. Okay, so if you have confidence in your product, if you are passionate over what you do, then why aren't you letting that show through, and letting, giving them, equipping them with the information, selling them on your own merits, so that they're in a position where they understand why you're so good. Okay, and then it's down to the competition to prove that they're as good as you. And all they have to do is a lazy sales technique. They don't have to don't ask the right questions, and they're not going to tick those boxes for that customer because you've educated them, you've equipped them in your product, because you are the specialist in your product or service. And when I say product here, it can be a product or service. I know I talk lots about services. And the other thing is to educate customers on the value of what you do. So, okay, using that absorbency example because it's easy. That absorbency, that means that it can be used for longer, it can be used on more severe wounds, etc., etc. I don't want to go into too much detail because you might be eating. You're then helping them see the value. So you're relating that to what their needs are. Yeah. And that's the point, is when you get to the part in the sales conversation where you've understood what their needs are, you're selling them on your merits, you're selling them on your USPs, on your strengths, and you are then able to explain to them why those strengths will result in them getting the outcome they're after. Okay, if you can help them see that value, you can help them prioritize that value. So, then when your competition comes in, and I've seen this happen, that they're like, well, so-and-so says this. So, where are you in that area? It's very weak. So, if somebody comes in and says, they've said, well, what's your absorbency? We used to have a dressing which was silver. Not to talk too much about medical stuff today, but we had a silver dressing. We used to talk parts per million, okay? And the release of parts per million from that dressing, because it had to be over a certain amount, because we had clinical evidence that showed that bacteria is killed with different parts per million of silver. Yes, silver does kill bacteria. And so, but don't go drinking it, guys, or else you'll turn blue. But you have got, the whole silver thing. We made parts per million a really big deal. Okay, so that meant that when our competitors came in, the customers were saying, these were nurses, they weren't used to talking scientifically at that level, but they were like, so how many parts per million has your dressing got? And then the competition would try and tell them that parts per million didn't matter, because their parts per million were a lot lower. And they were like, don't give me that. I know this because we'd educated them. We had shown them the value. We'd educated them. We'd provided them with the information they needed to make an informed decision. And that was the aim. Then once you've educated somebody, it is very difficult to tell that person that what they've learned is incorrect. Okay. Obviously, if it's not based on facts, if you're totally just, hoodwinking your customers, that's a very different story. That's immoral and you shouldn't be doing it. And it's ironic you're listening to this podcast. But assuming that it's true, then there's truth, there's information to back it up, then that person is convinced, they are certain of that information that they've obtained, and so they are able to call out competitors. And a competitor going, actually, parts per million don't matter, and straight away, obviously, the customer's like, yeah, you reckon they don't matter because you don't have the data, because you don't have the evidence to back up that actually you're any good. So there we go. So in order to avoid talking about people's shortfalls, sell on your own merits, Educate your customers to the value of those merits, those USPs, and help them see that value versus the competition. Okay, educate them, provide them with that information so they can make an informed choice. They can ask the competitor for themselves. You will get them prioritizing what your USPs are, and so because they'll understand the value of them, for them to then question your competition when they're coming in and making similar claims or having similar conversations. So that's it for me this week, guys. I hope you have enjoyed that insight. I hope that it wasn't too detailed for you on the whole wound care front. I'm taking questions for next week's podcast. So if you do have any burning questions or anything that you would like me to cover, then please do send those in to sarah@sellingwithoutsleaves.com before Sunday evening would be fantastic. So get on emailing me those questions and I will answer. I'll pick my favourite on this occasion, and if I have multiple more, I will cover those in a further podcast. Okay, so thanks for listening, guys. Happy selling. Bye for now.